Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Hello and a happy post-July 4th weekend to you all. From deep in the heart of a rental home in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, my name is Paul Boyer, and this is Phillies Therapy. We're recording with you here on Tuesday, July the 8th, right here smack dab in the middle of my favorite time of year, the West Coast road trip, which is already off and running. We're not going to talk too much about that. What is on the horizon, however, in just a little over 3 weeks' time, everybody's other favorite time of year, the trade deadline, and we're starting to get a little more serious about things. That's not to say that the field of buyers and sellers is any clearer than it has been over the last month, because it's still muddy as hell out there. But everybody's doing their best to figure out exactly where they're going to go. Thank you specifically to the Minnesota Twins. Keep an eye on them. But the Phillies, for their part, currently sit in first place in the National League East despite dropping last night's game in San Francisco. They are 53-38. The needs have not really changed. The identity of the team has not really changed. A lot of the same stuff that we're all used to. We know what this team is at this point. It's good, but flawed. Could use a little bit of an upgrade. But where does that upgrade come from? The eternal question. Let's see if we can do any more sussing out of what exactly could happen over the next couple of weeks. We'll take a closer look at the offense, the bullpen, the trade situation, and all of that good stuff. And to help me do that, let me welcome in my co-host. He is the Athletics Phillies beat reporter, Matt Gelb, who is out west in the San Francisco Bay Area, enjoying the 50-degree temperatures while we're all out here in our 90s. Matt, hello and good morning. How are you?
I'm doing better than Phil Cuzzi is after reading his report cards.
Oh boy, that was something.
It's not great.
That's all I'm going to say about that. That was something. All right. I'm not going to talk about that specifically, but Matt, I am a human element person when it comes to baseball. I like that there are humans calling balls and strikes, calling safer out, although a lot of that has been, reinforced, buttressed by replay. I like that all of the parks are different. I think, that's cool. That allows for replayability and gamer talk. It does get a little hard to swallow when that human element comes back to bite me in the ass, though, because that was that played a big part last night.
The Monday night game is the poster child for the challenge system, which will,
Yeah.
I believe, be in place in Major League Baseball in 2026. And I know there are flaws with the technology, and I know there's some concerns both on the player side and maybe perhaps on the league side. But Monday's game was the reason why the system will be in place next year, and why I think it will benefit everyone, is that if you have these high leverage missed calls, there will be a remedy at least in the future. But mainly Phil Cuzzi, the oldest umpire in Major League Baseball, probably should be replaced.
Yep, that wasn't great, but there are other things, as always, that the Phillies could have done to not make that matter.
Not to be an ageist, I'm not.
Yeah,
an ageist.
well, yeah, we'll all get there eventually. Anyway, it's just always something out in San Fran. If you've listened to the show, it's nothing new. I'm not treading new ground at this point. It's just basically a fact of life. But we're going to look forward. We're going to look ahead. We're going to see if we can find some brighter days than whatever crap happens out in San Francisco here on this annual trip out there. The Phillies are still in a good spot. I don't know how many more times we can say it, but despite all of their weird maladies and misgivings and flaws and what have you, the rest of the league is not exactly pulling away from them. It's just kind of a weird year in that way. There's a lot of good pitching and a lot of really stinky offense. Unfortunately for the Phillies, they're trying to improve that offense. The lineup as it stands right now is not as deep as the names within it would suggest it would be. There are some guys who are just not performing up to the way you would hope they would, whether it's a result of injury, rust, getting back into the swing of things. Trey Turner has been a star. He's been awesome. Kyle Schwarber has been a star. He's been awesome. Bryce Harper looks rusty coming back from his injury.
Thought he actually had a really good night Monday night. Took some good swings. Looked confident. And then after the game was upbeat. And this is basically playing out how every Bryce return from an injury plays out. The first 7 to 10 days, it looks like it looks like he has right, which it looks like he's never hit a major league pitcher before. I think Monday night was closer to normal Bryce, which should be encouraging.
Yeah. So we're looking at a lineup that is fine, but does not feel dangerous after the top 3 or 4, depending on the night Nick Castellanos decides to have. It's just one of those things. And the Phillies have lived with this, and they have made it to this point on the back of a starting rotation that is kicking Mondo ass. It is 4 strong starting pitchers at the top, and then a 5th spot that nobody really knows what to do with. Aaron Nola is still hurt. Mick Abel was optioned late last week. Taijuan Walker is back in the rotation. They keep bouncing him back and forth. He's coming up on a season where he'll have 10 starts and 10 relief appearances. Not too many players for the Phillies can claim that they've done that in the same season. That's a regular season problem, though, as the Phillies will not feature a 5th starter in the playoffs. So, Matt, as we look ahead to the trade deadline and as we think about what this team can do to improve, I personally find myself thinking that they should lean into the strength that they have and focus almost solely on trying to patch up the bullpen, add an arm somewhere in there, because the offensive situation in this league is just not great. How do you see things as we stand here a little more than 3 weeks out from the end of July?
I think you and I are on the same page, and it's for a lot of reasons. One, I think the supply of high-end relievers at the trade deadline is far greater than the supply of lineup changing or even lineup upgrade bats for the Phillies. 2, I believe that pitching does generally win in October. I truly do believe that. And if you want to point to the Phillies offense as the reason why they lost in 23 and why they lost in 24 in October, I would say yes, but I would say also the pitching really let them down. In the NLCS, it was the bullpen, and in DS in 2024 was also the bullpen. I mean, both times, right? Yeah. I mean, I know that you can point to the offense, and no doubt that they didn't score like they were supposed to score, but typically scoring is down even further in October. That's just the reality of it. Go look at what the Dodgers hit in the World Series last year, as an example. You'll be surprised. So I agree with you, Paul. I think I'm trying to double down on my strength, and that's hard for me to say because I think there are some obvious concerns and holes with their lineup as currently constructed. I just don't know if there's a way for them to do anything in July that measurably changes the projection or the outcome for this offense. Like, I think they're going to always struggle a bit to score. And I guess it has to be viewed in the proper context, because like I'm still confused about what they are as an offense, and that people might roll their eyes at that, but this is a team that is second in the National League in on base percentage, but sixth in runs per game. A lot of that is because of the slugging. They're fifth in the National League in slugging, just a few ticks above the league average, which is the big concern. And it's not even like the home runs, because like they are fifth in home runs. It's the doubles, Paul. They are 10th in doubles in the National League, I think. Like, actually 11th in doubles, which is confusing to me. Then you think about it, you're like, when's the like they don't hit to the gaps. Like, they really just don't. They don't hit balls to right center or left center very often. There's not a lot of, and it's not like they're that far off though, right? I mean, like while they are 11th in doubles right now, they're only 8 doubles behind the team that is 5th in the National League. I mean, there's not a huge gap there, but this is not a team that is hit for power. And absent acquiring some kind of, there is no, and let's make clear, like there's not really a power hitting corner outfielder that appears to be available in the trade market. And I'm going to give you a little preview here. Over at The Athletic on Wednesday morning, we'll have our trade deadline big board, the second version of it, go up. And this is essentially like ranking guys based on like not only how much they would make a difference to a team, but also like whether they'd be available or not. And this is through reporting that all of our baseball writers do at The Athletic. And before we got on, Paul, I was going over some of the names with you of the hitters that are on this list, and it's not great. Like, it's just not. The two guys at the top, I don't even think they're going to get traded, right? They're Red Sox hitters. It's Jarren Duran and Alex Bregman. And I don't know what the Red Sox are going to do. It's hard to tell. I think the industry as a whole is confused by the Red Sox after they traded Rafael Devers and
me too.
Said that they're going, they're not selling. They're still in it. The middle of the American League is pretty muddled. They probably will go for it just because of the fan base's reaction to what they did with Devers. So I'm going to take those guys out of it. So now I'm going further down the list. And here I'm going to give you, and by the way, there's a lot more pitchers ranked at the top than hitters. I'm going to give you the hitters that are near the top of this board of potential trade targets. Okay. Eugenio Suarez, Ryan O'Hearn, Marcell Ozuna, Ozzie Albies, Cedric Mullins, Josh Naylor, Taylor Ward, Adolis Garcia, Ryan McMahon, Harrison Bader. Now, a lot of those guys I listed are left-handed, which essentially eliminates them, I think, from becoming Phillies. I'll highlight a few guys that I think, if I were going to pivot and try to do offense, this is probably where I would land. And this is the most inelegant solution you could possibly have. I don't even know if it's on the table. I don't think it is on the table. I don't know that it's off the table.
Okay.
If I'm the Phillies and I really want to prioritize offense, I'm probably trying to trade for Eugenio Suarez, and I'm either putting him at third base and moving Alec Boehm to first base and Bryce Harper to the outfield, or I'm putting Suarez at first base, keeping Boehm at third, moving Harper to the outfield, creating some sort of DH left field carousel with Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos.
Wow.
It's a very inelegant solution, and because of all of the potential pitfalls and fallout and just drama that it would cause. Like, I just don't think that it's possible. But to me, Suarez is the one guy on the trade market that we know of right now who does the thing that they need, and that is right-handed pop. He's had a great year. He's a pending free agent. The acquisition cost, would likely not be too high. I do think he's going to be in huge demand. He also feels like he's going to be a New York Yankee. The Yankees are moving Jazz Chisholm to second base as of today, and they need a third baseman. They need a right-handed hitter. Feels like Eugenio Suarez is going to be a New York Yankee. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. I mean, Suarez, of course, splashed onto the national scene this year. At least he's a pretty no name, but he had that 4-homer game early in the season. But that hasn't been all he's done. He's hitting 252, 320 on base, 561 slug. He's got
he is what he is, right?
Home runs.
He's probably benefited from Chase Field, but he does the thing right now. Like, of all these guys that we've listed and who are realistic, he does the thing that they need the most, and that is right-handed power.
Yeah, plays a competent third base, although we've been over the moving Alec Boehm from third to first and how that might actually be something of a downgrade, even before getting into, for Boehm anyway, even before getting into Harper in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be displacing like 3 different guys with this kind of maneuver, and middle of the season, it just doesn't, I don't know. It would be fun to write about and watch. Like, I think it would be endlessly fascinating, but I don't know. I don't know how feasible that is. Of all those other guys I listed, like, is this just underscoring why we feel like you just double down on the pitching side? Like, is there any other scenario, option, door that you want to open on the hitting side that you feel like does what you want it to do outside of like going to find this year's Austin Hayes?
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Whenever you go into a trade kind of scenario, and for me anyway, I start thinking about all of this, I have to remind myself to actually think about what the inventory looks like. Because we can just look at the Phillies and the vacuum and say, okay, this team needs an offensive upgrade. They're good in the starting rotation. They have a couple relievers, could use a bump there, but there's a little bit of help. They're weaker, they're thinner right now, performance-wise, on the offensive side. You could say that. There are people who could argue that. It's close between that and the bullpen. But you have to actually go through, like you just did, and look at the inventory, look at who could be available, who you understand to be available at least. There's always a chance for a surprise. But you look at that, and it's not a deep crop of offensive help. There's a lot of left-handed hitting, as you went through. And with this current lineup and roster construction, that's almost a non-starter unless they're really good against left-handed pitching. And so then you'd have to think about complementary players. And, I'm locking onto some weird role players who could be like Sam Haggerty on the Texas Rangers, like that kind of thing, where it just doesn't move the needle that much. At least if you're trying to just fit a puzzle right into the piece and not cause huge ripples like, a Suarez move would. And so it makes more sense to me then, as I sit here right now on the 8th, thinking about this team, and yes, leaning into that strength, bolstering the bullpen, giving yourself more confidence in the middle inning situation and potentially late inning situation that you will find yourself in the playoffs. The rotation, as good as it is probably going to be, capital letters here, playoff managed and used differently. And so you'll need to rely more on your relief pitchers.
Correct.
So maybe this is an opportunity to lean into that.
There's one last, before we go to the pitching, I just want to give you one more scenario. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is a crazy one.
Okay.
Maybe even crazier than the batshit crazy one I just gave you earlier. What if you buy as low as you could possibly buy on Luis Robert Jr.?
But do the White Sox move him then?
Well, yes, they're going to move him because he
okay.
At this point now, they're not going to get anything for him, right? Because he's got a $20 million team option for next year that will not be picked up with a $2 million buyout. So at this point, I think he's on the injured list, by the way, like currently.
Again.
He is hitting 185 with a 270 on base and a 313 slug. He plays center field, plays it pretty well.
It's true.
Has not played well now for about a year and a half. He's just been, okay. Either replacement level or a little above replacement level. What if you just bought really low and just said, let's see?
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the Wilson Ramos move from a few years ago, where Ramos was injured at the time of his acquisition, and the Phillies had to wait a couple weeks for him to actually debut. And they were just like, all right, let's just see what happens here.
I don't remember a player ever being more emotionally crushed by a trade than Jorge Alfaro was when the Phillies got Wilson Ramos.
Really? I love Jorge Alfaro. I really wanted him to make it work.
It's a weird tangent, but
it is an interesting tangent. No, but that was 2018. Ramos was having a much better year that year with Tampa than Luis Robert was having, and he came over and obviously hit well with the Phillies.
I mean, you would be buying low,
talk about his
low.
defense.
But you would be buying lower than you could ever buy low on this guy.
Yes,
and he's talented. We know that. Like he is a talent, but he's clearly either regressed, lost some skill, or has been disinterested in the situation in Chicago. I don't know what the acquisition cost is now. It can't be very high. And so, what if you just did it?
Yeah, I started out when we were talking before we started recording. I was like, do I really like that idea still? Do I really want to do that? And maybe just because it fits in now with the motif, I guess, the running thread of the moves this team made coming into the year. Max Kepler coming off of an injured year and having a procedure in the offseason, trying to buy, low on him. Jordan Romano having an injury-filled year, off year, trying to give him, a platform year to work with. Picking these guys up to try and, bolster things because I guess they felt like that was the way to go, when the Profar, Jurickson Profar path wasn't going to work. They were like, all right, well, left field's got to get addressed somehow. Let's put a right fielder out there who might hit better than he did last year. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. Maybe this is the way to go. I don't know. I could be talked into it now.
Yeah, but
I could be talked into
it. It's right because the cost is so low, and you're like, let's just stick this guy in a contending environment. Bat him at the very bottom of the order, see what happens. I've heard worse ideas. I still don't think it's a great idea. I've heard worse ideas.
Yeah. Well, especially because there's just so little out there. There's so little,
and that's why. Okay, so now all roads lead for me, and I think you, Paul, to the bullpen. And The
Yeah.
bullpen has been better of late, no doubt. But like I found myself, we were in the dugout before the game Monday at Oracle
Mhm.
Park, beautiful Oracle Park, and I found myself like I was going over the bullpen, and I was asking Rob Thompson before the game, like, who is your fifth guy right now? Because like you have Kirkering, Strom, Banks, amazing, and
Yeah.
Romano. Like those are
Mhm.
kind of your four guys, and it's not great. But like, who the hell is the fifth guy right now? And it's basically a choice between Max Lazar, Seth Johnson, and Daniel Robert, who've all pitched like, kind of well of late. Like to their credit, Max Lazar again came into a sticky situation in Monday's game, and after Kirkering had, the inning from hell for a lot of reasons, and pitched well and got out of it. So they need a reliever. They probably need two relievers, and the supply of high end, high stuff relievers, Paul, that could be out there in the next 3 weeks is quite good. And I'm going to give
Mhm.
you a few. Let's start with this, okay?
Okay.
Paul, how do you feel about
Yeah.
Emmanuel Clase?
I feel exceptional about Emmanuel Clase. If he's available, I would love to be in the mix there.
I think he's available.
Oh boy, yeah, that would be exceptional.
Okay, how do you feel about Yon Duran or Griffin Jacks?
Yohan Duran is one of my favorite relief pitchers in the sport, and Griffin Jacks is having an unbelievable year. So check and check.
Okay, they could be available.
Those are big names, man. Yeah. Way more of a difference-making opportunity there with those names than anybody we've talked about on the offensive side. But
Cleveland and
by
Minnesota
factor three.
are the two biggest teams to watch in the next few weeks here. And it seems to me, just talking to people around the sport, that right now, because Major League Baseball has insisted on the amateur draft, the Rule 4 draft happening at the All-Star break, teams, I wouldn't say have paused, there weren't a lot of trade talks anyway, but teams are focusing on the draft right now. And once they get through the draft, which is happening Sunday and Monday of this upcoming week, you're going to start to see, more substantial talks and possibly some deals. But as far as the relievers go, I'm going to guess that is a late developing kind of thing, because there are so many teams that are going to be trading for relievers, and there are a decent amount of relievers out there. It could be that the team that holds on the longest might get the best price for some of these guys, because maybe when the musical chair stops and there's a team that all of a sudden hasn't acquired a reliever yet, and they're like, oh shoot, we got to go get this guy, and this is the last guy out there. We'll see. There's been a lot of talk about David Bednar. The Phillies have scouted him, yes, but he's on their list. It's not like he's especially that they have a ton of interest in him. Like, I think they're interested, but he's on their list. I don't know that he'd be at the top of their list. He's a guy.
A lowercase g guy. Yeah, lowercase g there. Yeah. I would love to dream big with some of the relievers we just talked about there.
So what are you giving up for one of those relievers, those three guys, either Jacks, Duran, or Clase? All of them have at least 2 years of control, I think, remaining. Who is your centerpiece of your trade package? What gets it done?
That's where it gets tough. I feel like maybe the Phillies missed a very short window of boosted trade value with Mick Abel to have him be a centerpiece. I don't really know. I don't know how much a couple of starts at the major league level really changes evaluations for some of these other teams. Probably not much. I think if you can, obviously the team has made it clear that they are not now, maybe not ever, trading Andrew Painter or Aiden Miller. So we'll just say that they're not going to get involved.
I think there's only one guy. There's only one guy right now that I would say is not available, and that's Andrew Painter. Now, there are different levels of availability here, okay?
Okay.
To me, I don't think they're trading Aiden Miller or Justin Crawford for a controllable reliever, right? Like, maybe you're trading Aiden Miller or Justin Crawford for a controllable bat. But I think the next tier of guys is where it starts to get interesting, right? They just promoted Arun Escobar to high A Jersey Shore.
He's about where my mind was leaping. Him, Eduardo Tait.
Exactly. Eduardo Tait, the catcher, who's going to go to the Futures game, 18-year-old catcher who's at Clearwater. What if the center, what if there's a package, Paul, that centers with one of those guys plus another solid prospect, maybe it's Abel, or maybe it's another, that seems like a lot. I don't know. Like, what if Escobar Tite is the centerpiece and there's two other guys in that deal? Are you doing that for one of those relievers? I'm probably saying yes.
I mean, I look at Emmanuel Clase. You potentially have him for 3 years.
Yeah, and he's not, he's not as good as he was last year. Like, last year he was the best reliever on the planet. He's, there's some dings there you can make on him. Like, he's not perfect, but he'd be a guy with the capital G.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's not, you're right. That was a hard bar to match from 2024. He had a
.61 ERA last year.
I mean, oh my.
And then
God.
he got, and then there was, he did get hit in the playoffs. So, like, there's all these things, like, how much does that factor into your decision-making process? I don't know that it should factor much, but it's something to consider.
The biggest thing for me with Clase has always been how truly and absolutely elite he is at preventing home runs.
Correct.
He is just, it's almost hard to believe, especially in this offensive era, that he is so good at keeping the ball in the ballpark. You did mention that series against the Yankees where famously Giancarlo Stanton tagged him and then flipped that series. And yep, that happened. During the regular season, it's unbelievable. Like, he has never allowed more than 4 home runs in a season, and he's pitched 70 plus innings in all 4 of the last 4 seasons. 2 home runs, 3 home runs, 4 home runs, 2 home runs, 1 home run this year in 39 innings. He just keeps the ball in the ballpark, and that is huge. It's enormous. That is clearly a skill that he has, that he does better than any other relief pitcher.
So because of that, and because of the 3 guys that we're talking about here, and maybe there's going to be others, but these guys are under control, and it does solve a problem that you would have also for next season. Like,
True.
I'm willing to stretch here a little bit. Like, okay, like let's say the Guardians want Justin Crawford, who's like it's almost like he's been made in a lab for the Cleveland Guardians. Just the style. Do you do Crawford plus something for Clase?
Sure, I do. I mean, I'm kind of the lower man on Crawford as a prospect, so I do that. So. But yeah, I do.
I think because you're talking about relievers with control, and I'm not a guy who's like, I'm not loving the idea of trading top prospects to acquire a reliever or relievers, because that's not the best way of doing business typically.
Yeah.
But given where they're at, given the situation, given the fact that we all just laid out that there's not a lot of paths to a meaningful offensive upgrade, you like the way your team looks, you love the starting pitching, you love the possible things you can do with your rotation and you moving guys in the bullpen in October, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If I can get a hard-throwing reliever with swing and miss stuff, and it has control beyond 2025, I'm probably trading one of my better guys.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
All right, so let's think about this from a standings perspective at the moment, since folks may not pay as close attention to AL Central teams. I know that's usually about 6th out of 6 on my list of divisions I pay attention to. It really is. Minnesota,
no, I'm there with you. That's
it's just I have.
Oh my God, the Tigers have a 14-game lead in the division.
Yes, the Tigers are 14 games up on the Royals, who are under 500.
I love that we're discovering this together right now because I haven't looked at this at all.
No, I mean the Tigers are
the Tigers have 58 wins. What the hell?
So the Royals are 44 and 48. They are in a virtual tie with the Twins, who have played 2 fewer games and are 1 back in each of the win and loss columns. They are 14 back of Detroit and 5 back for the last wild card spot. The Cleveland Guardians sit a game and a half back of Minnesota at 41 and 48, which then of course puts them 6.5 back of the last wild card spot. Yeah, 7 games under 500. Both those teams, clearly under 500, not looking great. Cleveland continues to waste Jose Ramirez. I don't know what the deal is with that.
It's a shame. He's so good.
He's tremendous. I think that I will allow myself, and maybe you all will join me out there, to pay a little bit more attention to the AL Central in the coming weeks to see if Minnesota and Cleveland continue to fall out of it and continue to feel as though they might want to move some of those guys, because I would absolutely be interested in those 3 names on the relief market. And I would pay up. I would pay up. I would not walk away if a team comes in asking for, one of the better guys, not one of the best guys, no Painter, but everybody else, you keep me at the table.
Just in talking to people around the sport, also around the Phillies, these 2 teams, I believe, are the most important to follow right now from a Phillies perspective. Minnesota and Cleveland.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. There's our assignment. There's your takeaway project. Learn a little bit about the Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Guardians. Get a chance to watch a little bit of Griffin Jax, Yohan Duran, and Emmanuel Clase. Duran, I mentioned quickly when we were bringing up names that he's one of my favorite pitchers in the sport. He throws one of the most unique pitches in the sport. I think Paul Skeens throws a version of this as a starting pitcher, but Duran throws what's called a splinker. It is
I will not be calling it that.
It is a splitter movement pitch that still hits high 90s, low triple digits. It is insane. It is insane to watch Yohan Duran pitch when he is on. I have loved him for years, and would be over the moon at the idea of adding him.
Griffin Jax is funny to me. He's having the weirdest season I think I've ever seen, because he has a 4.23 ERA. But he has struck out 62 guys in 38 and a third innings with 9 walks.
Yep.
His FIP right now is 1.91, which is more than 2 runs
2
lower.
4. Yeah.
Right. So Jax also, this is just not that this is affecting how they would make a trade. Do you know where Griffin Jax went to high school?
Where did Griffin Jax go to high school? Is he from here?
Nope. He went to Cherry Creek High School in Colorado. And why should that ring a bell to you?
Why should that ring a bell to me?
Because there's also a former Phillies closer, famously, who went to Cherry Creek High School in Colorado.
Was that Brad Lidge?
Correct.
Yeah, it was Brad Lidge. How about that? Oh, no kidding.
Griffin Jax is a former Phillies draft pick.
Yes, that he is. He didn't sign
The Phillies
with them.
drafted him in the 12th round in 2013, and he went to the Air Force instead.
Yeah. That's why he's been a bit of a late bloomer. He's a couple years older than
Right.
Clase and Duran. He's 30. He'll be 31 at the end of November. That still doesn't take away what he's done the last 2 years, really. He's been exceptional. Last year, he was tremendous as well, and he's putting up very similar numbers.
Right. I mean, so far, everything I've heard is that the Twins are open to the idea. They haven't necessarily taken offers on like their big guys yet. They have some they have some interesting pending free agents too on the hitting side, right? We talked about Bader a little bit. He's having, I wouldn't say career year. He's having a really good year, an outlier year, it seems like. But Willie Castro is a guy. He's a switch hitter, plays a bunch of positions. He's going to be a free agent after this season. He's somebody to watch. Like, he's having a really good year. He's getting heavily scouted. I know that by other teams. He's definitely somebody to watch, as part of this. And of course, like, there's Byron Buxton, who I don't think is getting traded, but like, and I don't know that anyone is trading for him. He's having a great year, but I mean, a lot of red flags, like injury wise, of course. I don't know. I mean, like excuse me, they have a lefty, Danny Colomb, who's going to be a free agent after this year. He's having a really, really good year. Brock Stewart is a reliever that's caught people's eyes before. Louis Varland also, another controllable guy. Like, some of these guys have bad injury histories, but there are guys outside of the Duran Jax tier that make the Twins a compelling trade partner.
Yeah. Justin Topa, maybe another guy a little on the older side, but somebody, who could work.
Now you're really digging.
Cost. Yeah. But those are just names to keep in mind, right? Because I love the idea of adding an impact of the level we've just been talking about, but cannot shake the feeling that eventually when the dust settles, it comes down to a lower acquisition cost guy.
I don't know.
I
think they're going to take some swings.
Good.
Because like the strength of the system, again, their farm system. And I've been trying to talk to as many different teams, like, just to see like, how does the industry value the Phillies farm system, especially the guys outside of Painter. And I think there is some interest, even in, especially in the Escobar, Tait, Abel range. Like, I think there is interest and there is value placed on those prospects. So their middle tier isn't great. Like, after the top guys, there's a very steep drop off. The Phillies do not have, after the top 5 guys or so, it's not great. There are some guys who I think make for decent second or third pieces in a package, just decent. That teams have are intrigued by. But in terms of a headliner, like, I think that Escobar or Tait or both or Crawford is a competitive package in relation to what other teams are going to be offering. Because again, there's going to be a lot of competition for, hypothetically, for Duran, Jax, Clase, etc. A lot of competition.
Yeah. Those are big guys. Look, I think one additional thing to keep in mind is whenever we talk about some of these higher acquisition cost guys, really any trade, honestly, the point is not for the Phillies to, quote, win a trade by underpaying.
They ain't going to be winning a trade this July.
Right. Like, and that's not really what
like, in terms of like, yeah, I mean, like did they win the Ben Brown, David Robertson trade? To me, yes, because they went to the World Series and David Robertson saved a game in the World Series and helped them get there. So yes, they won it, but did they actually win it? No, of course not. They didn't win it. Ben Brown is still pitching and David Robertson is not.
Yep. And you don't want things to end up like the Real Muto trade with the Marlins, where, Sixto Sanchez flames out and is out of, pro ball before he's 30. Like, that's not the goal, right? Like, if it happens that you give up someone who isn't quite as good as what you get, okay, fine. But that player stops mattering to me. That player stops mattering once they are traded away. And then it becomes about what you bring in. Because if we get so locked into the idea that we have to pay just the right price or underpay, then the window of satisfaction you could get from any deal really becomes thin. it becomes like a transom window as opposed to something you can just kind of slide over and walk through. And it should be about understanding what you're bringing in is hopefully, ideally, a shot in the arm, a really good player, a nice guy to fit into a team with World Series aspirations. If the team has to give up something of high value, one of the guys that even casual fans have heard, like the name that they have heard a lot, right, or seen on a top 100 list nationally, like, okay, yeah, that might hurt. That you might be giving up somebody who's good, but you're getting somebody who's good too, and that is more important.
Well, there's a bigger conversation here, Paul, to be had, and that is, do you think this team, this season, this situation is worth that sort of sacrifice, or worth that, that risk?
I think it is absolutely worth considering. I look at what this rotation is doing right now. This is special. This is a special group. I hope they all stay healthy and are there for the playoffs to continue this and make it like a truly special season. It is no guarantee that all of these guys will do this again next year. It just isn't. It just is not. It is not the case. We're not assured anything.
And also part of your calculus is looking across the league, and there's never, it's baseball. So like, even if there was a dominant team with a capital D, you would still be like, well, that team is not guaranteed to win the World Series. But as I look across the landscape of baseball right now, there are some good teams. There might be one or two great teams, although I'm not even sure. I'm not certain of that. So it is a season in which, like, you can close your eyes and, like, it might be far-fetched for some Phillies fans to envision this right now, but like, this team can win the World Series. It's not like a ludicrous thought, is it?
No, absolutely not. No way. Of course it isn't. They've got championship talent. It's a shame that their flaws are as, present, I guess, although they border on exaggerated at this point, as they are. But that's every team right now, and that's okay. If they can supplement it at this trade deadline with the right piece, whether it ends up being one of these three big relievers we talked about or somebody else, it could still be somebody yet to be determined. Another team could completely flame out in the next couple of weeks. We don't know. Like, maybe the Cardinals tank for some reason and Ryan Helsley becomes available. I don't know. It's possible.
Even if they tank, like,
it's a counterexample, right? But
I know. I'm saying, like, just given what I've heard about the Cardinals, I think like they're pretty committed to trying to get a wild card spot this year.
Okay. The Phillies are in a really good position. Yes, they're first place in the NL East by a game. They look good for the most part. Even some of the things that they don't do super well, or that I think they don't do super well, right? Like, I get frustrated when they don't get a runner in from third with less than 2 outs. But then I look at the rest of the league and they are above average in their conversion rate there. They do this 53% of the they are. They do this 53%
where are they
of the time.
Like, where are they like RISP wise?
That I will look up, and
while you look it up, they have not had a hit in their last 23 at bats with a runner in scoring position, which seems impossible. But they also won 2 of those 3 games that span covers, which is also hilarious. So I don't know. It's not a great lineup. Like, I think we can fully acknowledge that it is not a great lineup. And also, like, they've gotten, I don't want to say nothing, but they've gotten such little from Bryce Harper, especially in the last 45 days, because he hasn't played really. And when he has played, he hasn't hit for power.
Yeah. I appreciate that vamp. It did allow me to pull up what the Phillies are doing in terms of the National League with runners in scoring position. And this is season wide. They're currently hitting as a team 256 with a 341 on base and 420 slug for a 761 OPS. That is 17 points above National League average. The Dodgers are way out in front with a 902, and the Cubs are second with 824, and nobody else is above 800. So that puts the Phillies 4th in the National League in runners in scoring position OPS. And as you mentioned, they're in a huge offer. That's just the league. That's just what the league is doing. It stinks.
So double down.
Stinks.
Right. I'm doubling down on pitching.
Yeah. So, and especially if the names, make the kind of impact on listening to them like they do with me, like they hopefully do with all of you out
Right.
there.
And
I
it's
think
not
there's
in a
more of an
vacuum. It's
opportunity.
because, right. And there is more supply of the need of the for the bullpen need than there is for the lineup. And I guess my ideal Phillies trade deadline is you get one of those relievers, one of those 3 relievers we just discussed from the American League Central. And please don't bring this recording back when it flops, but I would seriously consider buying low on Luis Robert Jr.
All right. I can be talked into it. I really can. I'm allowing myself some room to let my opinions waver, possibly vacillate wildly over the next 3 weeks. I don't know. We'll see. But I could be talked into
I
that.
just think, because the acquisition cost will be lower. The roster cost will be very low because it could just be he replaces Johan Rojas, who has an option and can go to the minor leagues. There is no long-term risk. He's not under contract for next year. If you don't like what you see, you pay the $2 million buyout. You don't pick up a $20 million option. I don't know what Luis Robert Jr. could do, no matter what team he's playing for the next 2 months, to get his $20 million option picked up by anybody. So all of the certain risk factors that you assess when trying to make a move, all of them are low. And I'll throw a dart there. Why not?
There we go. All right. So that's basically the situation we find ourselves in here early in July. The Phillies, we know what they are at this point. They have a 5th starter situation to kind of figure out. We'll see what Taijuan Walker can do in this latest trip through the rotation. Hopefully Mick Abel gets his feet under him, grounds himself a little bit better at AAA. Would like to see a little bit more from Andrew Painter, but he is a 22-year-old pitching at AAA.
The fact that they haven't, this is the first time that there's really been like a, hey, like a need or a situation where like, hey, they should, are they going to bring up Painter? They haven't had that situation yet. They've been able to stick to the plan, and would not be surprised if he pitches for them before July ends. Seriously. I mean, like, I think out of the break, they'll be reassessing things. Walker gets 1 start here, and we'll see what things look like after the break.
All right. So we got a fascinating stretch coming up here. The Phillies will continue their West Coast swing, and I will hopefully maintain my sanity as they do it. We have some homework. Pay attention to some of these AL Central teams. See what they do. See if you can get a look at some of these relievers and imagine them wearing red pinstripes. That could be kind of cool.
Weird,
Phillies
but
themselves, yeah, sure. The Phillies themselves have, they have some work to do. They can't exactly coast to the trade deadline here. They are only 1 game up on the Mets, and they are currently inhabiting the 3rd spot in the National League. It's a bit of a dogfight right now, but they're in it. They're certainly in it.
At the end of the season, where on hilarious storylines will Austin Hayes ruining a Zach Wheeler perfect game rank?
So in our Discord, Matt, you floated the idea of how many home runs would Austin Hayes hit during that series, and I didn't answer that explicitly, but I remember thinking to myself, it was probably just going to be more about doubles. And he had, I think, an RBI double in the 2nd game of the series. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to go nuts with the home runs, but I would imagine he comes up with a big hit at some point and just really kind of drives it in. And of course, being the only hit of an otherwise perfect game was not exactly what I had in mind. But
baseball
I think
is truly beautiful.
It's, oh my goodness. So the Phillies finish up their 3-gamer here against the Giants Tuesday and Wednesday, off Thursday, and then 3 in beautiful San Diego. Matt, I am a little, even though I am on vacation, I am a little bit jealous that you get to go to San Diego.
Tough trip to pack for, because I've packed for 55 degrees in San Francisco and 75 degrees in San Diego. Nobody is shedding a tear.
I know, we're all weeping. And then you come home for the All-Star break. Yay. Some of the Phillies will be going to Atlanta. Right now we know of Zach Wheeler and Kyle Schwarber. They are in the game, at least at the moment. We'll see if Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, and potentially Trey Turner get added later on as replacements.
Even if Sanchez is added, he won't be able to pitch because he's pitching.
Because he's set to pitch Sunday, right? So he
should be an All-Star though.
Yeah, get the distinction, of course. So it won't be 8 like last year, but still pretty healthy representation. Certainly Wheeler and Schwarber deserve it. The pitching, Sanchez and Suarez, fantastic. You can make an argument for Turner too. The guys who made 100%. It ahead of him make sense. Lindor, super popular player, having a good year. Elly De La Cruz having a fantastic offensive season. It makes sense. We'll see who gets added. People will get added. It'll happen. Trust me. Some guys might look like snubs right now, but they'll get at it. Happens every year. So that's where we sit. I'm looking forward to the updated big board coming on The Athletic tomorrow. That's Wednesday, July 9th, as we sit here recording on Tuesday, the 8th. Matt, as you continue on this West Coast trip, what are you looking forward to? Hopefully a slightly more normal game from behind the plate, maybe?
Some fish tacos in San Diego. I'll be writing different things. My colleague Charlotte Varnes will have a story later this week about it's more draft and development related, which I'm excited about because it's a bigger story that we haven't necessarily thought about or tackled very much. And going into the draft, the Phillies have the 26th pick on Sunday night. Why is the draft on Sunday night? Why are they doing 3 rounds on Sunday night? These are all questions that will remain unanswered, but I'm excited for Charlotte's story, and I think if you're an inside ball kind of person, you'll enjoy the story too.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. Always enjoying Charlotte's work. And of course, if you missed it last week, Charlotte joined us for a little conversation. Go ahead and check that out and show her some love for her pieces over on The Athletic. So that'll do it for this week. If you want more, feel free to check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Phillies Therapy. You get access to our Discord server where we have wild, crazy, funny, stupid conversations every single day. We just opened up a Sixers channel too for people to talk about, whatever it is the Sixers are deciding to do. You think of a topic, you'll talk about it with people who are level-headed and like-minded sickos like yourselves. We would love to have you over in our little corner of the Phillies world. If not, thank you once again for joining us, and we're happy to have you in any way, shape, or form. This has been Phillies Therapy, part of the Believe Podcast Network. For Matt, I am Paul, and we will see you next week.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.